Well, everybody, our exciting, wonderful, wise journey has come to an end. Episode 10 of House of the Dragon is out. We have watched it. It's been out for a little while. Because of daylight saving time, I was in the middle of watching Season 2, Episode 3 of Game of Thrones when this came out, and I didn't realize because on binge it had the fucking Sydney-Melbourne time. I was disgusted by this fucking nonsense. Didn't update it. It wasn't region sensitive. I was very mad. But I watched it at a half an hour in the middle of it being out. But on binge, you can skip towards the end immediately if you wanted to. There's no live feed or anything, so you could cheat. Nonetheless, then I slept and now I'm here. Obviously, no lead Ari again. We will catch up with Ari sometime in the coming week, probably. Still recovering. And also there will be a second version of the spoiler-riddled Minty thingy that we did. Now that Season 1's done, looking towards Season 2 with all the spoilers in tow. So those are exciting. More House of the Dragon content to look forward to. Plus, my next 2 scripted videos should still be House of the Dragon, even though I've been lazy for a whole month. But nonetheless, a lot of House of the Dragon content coming still. I am rewatching Season 2 at least for one of those scripted videos. I'm 3 episodes in. What a television program that show used to be, huh? It's funny how there's some fundamental things that are bad about it, and there are some things that are just so good about it. But I'll probably talk about that another time. Nonetheless, Season 1, Episode 10. Let's talk about that one. First, let's talk about the most prescient and poignant point. Poignant point? These pronunciations. I was tweeting about them as it happened. My boy got called Lord Celtigar. That was infuriating. That was disgusting. Lord Celtigar's name has been butchered. I'll never forgive them. Just like Aegon. Disgusting and embarrassing. And then poor Cregan Stark is like Krygan Stark or something. What an uncool name. Also, he's young. Didn't know that. I thought he was older than Rhaenyra at least, but Rhaenyra's he's closer to your age than mine. How does he have a bastard daughter that's old enough for Jace to marry? That's a potential spoiler, because that's one of those things that maybe did or didn't happen. What the fuck? They're going to cut Sarah Snow, and I had dreams about the love story between Sarah Snow and Jace that was going to happen in fucking episode 2 next season, when this fucking prick ends up at Winterfell. You reckon they'll skip over the Eyrie visit, because we don't care about the Eyrie, but we really want to jerk off the Starks in the first episode of next season? Fucking disgusting, frankly. How old? I'm looking up Cregan Stark right now. There's no way this prick was that young. Why would he be made a regent? Cregan Stark. Let's just look up the wiki page. It's funny, if you look up Arax's wiki page, the image is just the shot of him dead on Storm's End shores. It's cute. Cregan was born in 108 AC. He is a young fuck. Can you believe this? What the fuck? Does it have it? If I click on Rhaenyra, yeah, she's here in the Dance of Dragons. What year was Rhaenyra born in? I don't know, only 97. I was thinking, because I was thinking Laena and Laena died in in the 80th year, but of course they didn't. It must have been the 120th, and I confused it with the 180th. But she is, 11 years younger than him, older than him. Which I didn't know. I thought he was an old prick, but whatever. Nonetheless, characters we haven't met yet, but we will meet in the future and will be important, Lamau. But they did call my boy Celtigar. That was a bit cringe, if you ask me. Nonetheless, now that we've got the biggest things out of the way, do we get into the overall thoughts? I guess. Ari, what were your overall thoughts? He's not here, chat. Nothing you say can bring him back. Only patience. The episode was pretty good, I think. I remember it's interesting because as I was taking my notes, I'm like, man, these are some negative ass notes. But I was watching it, I liked it, and I still have a favorable view in retrospect. All the big controversial things I like. Some of the non-controversial things were a little annoying. How do we describe this? A lot of people said, and Minty said this to me, that the episode from the leaks looked pretty boring. Now, not the leaked episode, because the episode also leaked like 3 days ago, but I didn't watch it until today. I'm paying for binge for a fucking reason, I'll tell you what. I ain't watching no fucking leak. And I can wait, like a good boy, and then get the review out at the normal scheduled time, even though this one's a little later than usual, probably. So from the leaks, it seemed like a boring episode where not much happened besides Storm's End. The famed Storm's End scene finally happened. I feel like I must have said in previous weeks, Storm's End's coming up, Lamau. We're going to see an establishing shot of Storm's End, which we did get our establishing shot. I believe it is the last, well, again, we say this every time, unless Sunspear counts, the last of the Seven Kingdoms major capitals, well, they're not all cities, but castles, that we hadn't seen yet. And there it was. I guess we haven't really seen a specific Casterly Rock one. We saw Lannisport. Anyway, we finally saw Storm's End establishing shot. It was cool. It looked cool. It was a little. The central tower was a little smaller than I expected. I thought it was like a big dome that encompassed the whole thing. Not that there was the big thing and then a little bit of a castle built outside, but nonetheless. What were we talking about? Oh, the episode seeming boring on paper because not much happens. But I like it when not much happens. Those are my favorite things. Those are my favorite episodes. Like the bullshitting around the painted table and who their allies are and aren't and who they have to send ravens and then dragons to is interesting. Pieces on the board have been talked about before, obviously. In the first episode, the four houses swearing fealty that are highlighted as Stark, Baratheon, Velaryon, and Hightower. Now, obviously, Hightower isn't with them. The Velaryons are. Poor Corlys, he's alive still, not dead yet. I'm sure that was a shock, or potentially not, for all of our non-spoiled boys and girls in the chat. There's no girls in the chat. There's no boys in the chat right now. Uh-oh. And so the ones that are up for grabs, obviously, are the Starks and the Baratheons. Now, they do have more disgusting Stark propaganda in this episode, where they say the Starks have never betrayed an oath or something, recalling that they all swore fealty to Rhaenyra. And with him, the whole North comes. So it seems like the Stark's probably going to be black. But also, when Otto shows up, he says they've all been sent as terms and are all considering it. But that was probably to throw Rhaenyra off. What a sneaky bastard. But also the Tullys are mentioned, who have been mentioned before. Lord Grover got another mention. Still no Elmo Tully. That's disgusting. We want to hear from our Lord and Saviour. Daemon was threatening to go there himself on his dragon, obviously, to threaten people as he gets the loyalty with the Kingsguard in this episode. Probably not a good idea. This Daemon prick, kind of a fucking idiot, kind of useless. Nonetheless, we'll talk about the controversy with Daemon, I'm sure, in due time. The Tullys we were talking about? Well, obviously, the central thing of the episode is going to Storm's End, and obviously the Storm's End have chosen the Greens because Aemon agrees to marry one of his daughters. It's interesting because he famously has 4 daughters, and when we walk in, one of the girls is standing next to Aemon, and he chose one, and there's 3 on the other side. Do we get into the Storm's End scene already? It's going a little forward, huh? I guess we do. We're talking about the painted table scene, which is interesting because immediately they have all of the houses that are around Dragonstone, which are also, because King's Landing is literally right next to Dragonstone, they have all the houses surrounding King's Landing. Well, at least a bunch of them. They have Bar Emmon, they have Celtigar, can you believe it? My fucking god. They have the Celtigars, who I don't know if they're going to highlight this, but they're also a Valyrian house. They'll look like the Targaryens. It'll actually be interesting if they were to make them black too, to be like, if they're more like the Velaryons than the Targaryens, but I don't know if they've thought that far ahead. I don't think they mentioned Stokeworth. They mentioned Darkland, which is who rules Duskendale at this point, because Because later it's Dantos' house. That's where he's from. But the Mad King kills all the Darklings when they fucking torture him for half a year. That's the whole thing. You all remember the Mad King's backstory? Kept in a fucking dungeon for 6 months. Can you believe that shit? And there are other ones mentioned. Bar Emmond, Lord Massey, Lord Stralson, or whatever. These are all the ones that are right around King's Landing. Besides, like, Rosby and Stokeworth, who weren't mentioned, but I also think are the biggest houses, but I think they're a little bit further away from King's Landing than the rest of them. They definitely have all the houses around the Gullet, which is the sea bit that goes into King's Landing, so they can... No ships will be coming in and out. And Rhaenys even says once they agree... once she agrees and her and Corlys agree to side with Rhaenyra, that she'll patrol the Gullet on Mealy's. Will anything interesting come of that? I did like all Rhaenys' cunty not bowing and not lookings, or like looking funnily at Rhaenyra as she was fucking up. I guess that was all just a big subversion for them actually siding with them. But I don't know, cunty Rhaenys is best Rhaenys. We need more cuntiness in the show. This is a point we're going to get to later. The show was better with more cuntiness. And by more cuntiness, I mean Millie Alcock. But we'll get to that. We were talking about Storm's End, and we were talking about the painted table scene. We've got a bunch of lords surrounding them. Did they say anything else? They mentioned Highgarden briefly. They mentioned that the Lannisters are almost certainly not on their side. Lannisters on the bad guy side again. Can you believe it, chat? They've been typecasted by this fucking Stark propaganda, who are probably going to be on the good side. Disgusting. Jaime was right. Fuck Ned. Do they say anybody else that's certainly on the green sides? Obviously the Hightowers. They say the Arryns are probably on Rhaenyra's side, because obviously Emma Arryn was an Arryn. And they want their granddaughter to sit on the throne. Though they don't have her grandfather is not alive anymore, because they mention that the Vale, remember Lysa, is run by a woman right now. Probably a widow with a young kid. Because we love to rhyme, like we're George Lucas in this fucking Fire and Blood book. It's cute. Nonetheless, Vale has a big army. Now, obviously, the Royces will be an interesting point of contention. If that old Royce is still around and he still hates Daemon and still thinks Daemon killed his wife, which he did, and the Royces are the second most powerful house in the Vale. That's how they got fucking Daemon to marry them. We'll have to see on that front. What other fucking kingdoms are there? Daemon wants to go to Harrenhal. Now, the Strongs obviously used to... Well, Larys is still the Lord of Harrenhal, but he's in King's Landing. Daemon wants to take it and then use that as a base. Harrenhal, the biggest fucking castle in the whole list world. So yeah, the stage is being set. Interesting things to think about, especially if you're a fucking non-spoiled, fucking illiterate fuck. But nonetheless, we're going to Storm's End to officially start the war, kinda. Because that fucking Aemon prick, he maliciously killed Lucerys. Well, at least that's how we've all known the story. Until about 3 days ago, when I started seeing tweets spoiling this for me, and getting very mad that they changed it to the point where Aemon didn't actually want to kill Lucerys. But he just wanted his eye, I guess. That's why he was following on Dragon. Or maybe he was just trying to scare him. Now, that bastard Arax, he did fucking flame on Vhagar first. Didn't really hurt him at all, it seems. But then he did get chomped. Now, this is like... I always say that like this is one of the moments from the Dance of Dragon. But there really are like 5 of them. Is this the first of the biggest one? No, the Green Council is probably the first of the biggest one. Then there's this. Then there's the Blood one. Then there's the Fight. And then there's the Death. Lamau, you understand what I'm talking about. God, the Death is going to be so cool. The Fight, everybody will soy out for it. The Blood, no, that's going to be interesting. We thought maybe the third one was going to happen this season, and this was going to happen last episode, but that's not how it eventuated. There's no way they open the next season in episode 1 with the Blood. There's just no shot. Instead, we're going to have a soy out moment at Winterfell. I just know it. It's going to be like the third scene. We're going to be back, and we're going to get the establishing shot of Winterfell. The dumb fucking music is going to play. Everybody's going to soy out. Nonetheless, I don't know. Because Jace is already on the way there. Again, maybe you'll stay with the Aarons for an episode. We'll see. So yes, the Storm's End thing, the official start of the war, first of their sons to die. As the story goes, Lucerys shows up. He's a little boy. Aemon's a giant. He shows up and he's ready to meet with Boros Baratheon. It's not Boromir. Boromir's his father, right? I know these things. And Rogar is his father. I read Fire and Blood. It's funny, I feel like I started Fire and Blood. Hold on, Heath is now here. Season could have done a couple more episodes. Could have done with a couple more episodes, to be honest. Well, that's always the case, but they were always going to do 10 episodes. It's the Game of Thrones way. What was I talking about? I was talking about Storm's End, but what part especially was I talking about? Aemon's already there with Vhagar, and it's spooky. Luke is getting up. Yes, I was talking about Rogar, and I was flexing my Fire and Blood knowledge, because I think it was like after episode 3 that I got the Fire and Blood book. I'm only about 300 pages in, though, and I'm still not up to the dance stuff yet. Though Corlys, Daemon, Rhaenys, Viserys have all been born now, so it's kind of cute. I point and I go, I know who that is. And Rogar is a big character, and he's the grandfather of this fucking Storm's End bloke, this Baratheon lord. Can you believe it? I know everything out here. Nonetheless, they show up now. Boromir is not as evil or mustache twirly as most of my my coloured in knowledge outside of just the wiki stuff is the extras Dance of Dragons telling thing they did on one of the DVD things, where it cut out a lot of the smaller details. And so Boromir, I remember being more of a mustache twirling villain in that, and Robert Baratheon does the voiceover for that part of him, and he's like, man, this fucking dumb little kid rocked up at Storm's End, must have shit himself or something. But obviously the big meme is that Boros is handed letters, but he's illiterate, and the Maester has to read it to him. Now again, we don't hear the Maester, what he says in the episode, so it's a big... It is one of the biggest in like the entire series. One of the biggest pieces of evidence for the big Maester conspiracy guys. Because for context, in I think the 4th book, in A Feast for Crows, Sam meets a dude at the Citadel called Maester Marwyn, and he basically says that the dragons were not killed by gallant dragon slayers; they were killed by the Maesters. And all the dragons, I feel like this isn't a spoiler, or at least nearly all of them, die in the Dance of Dragons. The Targaryen's dragons have to die out some point. So basically the accusation can be inferred as the Maesters started the Dance of Dragons. Now, all while as Grand Maester, he was with Otto when they tried to go and treat, though he really didn't have any input. And he didn't seem to be too much of a sneaky bastard. But this one here, this Maester, we don't hear what he says, and he's suddenly... I guess this isn't really played up in the show. But in the book, the Boros is very mad at Rhaenyra, calls her like a whore and everything. At least I think so. This is my recollection of how it happens. And is entirely on Aemon's side. He does do the no blood in my hall thing, so they fight outside. But yes, in the telling of it, Boros is very mean, Luke is very little and scared, he goes to run away on his little teeny tiny dragon, and Aemon jumps on him immediately to prove that he is the big bad guy, and he's going to fuck him up. Now, in the show, they have both of the dragons. Now, a lot of the complaining on Twitter I saw a few days ago was just that Aemon couldn't control Vhagar, which is already okay. Like, you can explain that away pretty easily. He's pretty fucking... an old prick. Drogon didn't obey Dany all the time. This fucking Vhagar thing is feral and old. A bunch of crazy bastards have ridden this fucking old bastard. And Aemon's only had him for what? Him. Dragon switch genders or something for like 10 years or something. I think Aemon's official age is like 16 too. I saw some memeing on that because he looks about 35, but that's funny. Regardless, I'm sure if you counted the years, you could figure it out because they say Lucerys is 14 in the episode. Jace is probably older than Aemon technically. And Aegon is a few years older because Helene is also between them. You could figure it out, I'm sure. And I think figuring it out would land you at 16, so Lamau. But yes, the change. Some people were very unhappy with this change. For what it's worth, the fight was pretty cool. Because obviously a lot of this series is going to be dragon battles. So I was like, is this going to be interesting? And I guess it was. They did like the one meme thing you do when you have like flying enemies where you fly through like the crater thing where the bigger one can't go through. So they've done that now. I don't know if they'll have to repeat that. I don't know, when you're on like the Rockies of like the shore, I guess you can do that. When they're inland, I don't think you can do that. So maybe this was their one opportunity to do the going through the smaller cracks so the bigger dragon can't go through it trope. But they did that to prolong it. Then Arax goes up in the sky, breaks through the storm clouds. And then we get a little Vhagar jump scare bite. Now Miller, like 3 days ago in the Discord said, because Ari had posted actually a TikTok of all the dragons' sizes being compared, and him and Miller thought this was funny because it was so silly that some of them were so big and some of them were so small. And then I think Miller made the jape that like the bigger dragon could eat the little one in one bite, and I put in the thing, every fiber of my being is going into my restraint right now. Because it was going to happen the very next episode. Incredible stuff. This fucking dragon gets chomped to pieces. The way it falls apart is great. This fucking Luke kid, he's dead. Long live the Greens. We love it. But also we get a big reaction shot afterwards of Aemond realizing he fucked up. Now, obviously the biggest weakness of this episode is that there's no Alicent, who is currently the best character because Helena fell off. In the show, these fucking blacks are all boring. We'll get to that later. The next season better open with her throwing something at a wall and screaming at Aemon, because she's only ever screamed at Aegon so far. And it'll be interesting if she's pissy with Aemon for killing Lucerys, which happens in the book. Even Otto is mad at him in the book when he gets back. But that is kind of a spoiler. I'm sure those two scenes... Well, actually, it seems like Otto is more evil than his book counterpart. He's just going to be... He's going to give him a hug or something when he finds this out. So overall, I thought the scene was pretty good. I don't know if there's much to complain about in this. They're obviously, like, the first scene in the episode, I'm pretty sure, is Rhaenyra and Luke being cute. And then, obviously, there's a longer pause on him saying goodbye to his mother. All things you probably could have picked up on to spoil yourself into what was going to happen with Luke this episode. But yeah, so we got a bunch of Luke characterization before he dies, which is a thing that in watching the 3 episodes of Season 2 I have watched so far, they like to do a lot. And I remember this from Game of Thrones. And it feels a little cheap and a little obvious. Maybe not when Game of Thrones is happening, but episode 3 ends with Yoren dying, who is the Night's Watchman that, like, takes Arya out of King's Landing. And, like, there's a big scene where you really like him right before he dies, and it feels cheap a little bit. They obviously do this with Stannis and Shireen way later, where they have the big moment where they love each other so much, only for him to burn her the same episode. Funnily enough, I'm pretty sure that's the scene where they discuss the Dance of Dragons. I think we're past where that scene would spoil you. You still can't click on that Joffrey, Marjorie scene. My goodness, Marjorie's boobs win the roast season episode. Can you believe it? So many of those actresses got naked. That's not the same with House of the Dragon, huh? Incredible stuff. Nonetheless, it felt a little bit like that, though they have been giving Luke more stuff just in general, obviously because he's going to die. Or die sooner to keep things vague. So we focused on that. on him more so than Jace. Jace will get a lot of stuff next season. Obviously, we're going to follow his journey up to the Vale and then to Winterfell. I guess I spoiled that he doesn't get killed at the Vale by Aegon, who's waiting there for him. I don't think they're letting Aegon out of this fucking city, though. That's obviously another thing that's brought up a lot when they're doing War Council stuff, is that they have like 12 dragons and the Greens have 4. Which I guess confirms that Helena has Dreamfire. Wait, who is the 4th one? Unless they are counting Daeron's dragon. But it's going to be interesting, because I don't think he is, like, stationed at Old Town at this point in the book. Like, how's he going to get back? Like, I guess you can just sneak him through the Reach, I guess, because you do go the Reach up there, and then he could make it. Unless I'm forgetting one. And they really don't have any others in that fucking dragon pit. The rest of them, because Silverwing and Vermithor are the two big unclaimed dragons, are on Dragonstone. We see Vermithor, who is the old king from the Prologue's dragon, who has since not been claimed. Daemon is like singing to him. It seems like this singing does something to calm dragons. Now, apparently a lot of people think that Daemon has claimed a new dragon or a second dragon or something. Unless they change it, that's not what's happening, because you can't have more than one dragon. That's why Dany never rides the other two, and only Drogon. But yeah, seeing Vermithor was kind of cool. It's interesting how they sort of scale them in oldness by how fucked up their teeth are, because Vermithor kind of has fucked up Vhagar teeth, even though he's like 50 years, or at least 50 years, probably like 60 or 70 years younger than Vhagar. Silverwing, they also mention, is in there, though we didn't see it. Which is the old king's wife's dragon. Also, they do mention that Sea Smoke is on Driftmark, and I assume they're just going to kind of break the rules and have it no longer be bonded with Laenor just because Laenor left. Somebody else does get that dragon, and obviously in Fire and Blood, it's implied that Laenor is dead, and that's why the dragon can bond with somebody else. But that one's on Driftmark, so this dragon pit don't got any spare dragons, it seems. And Aemon seems to be the only one they're going to let go out and do things. So it's kind of one against a bunch if they wanted to do things. But obviously it's the biggest one, Lamau. We'll see how things play out. Is that everything on the Storm's End dragon front, I guess? We were talking about the Lucerys characterization. They made it cute right before they killed him. Felt a little old Game of Thrones. I have no problem with the disobeying thing. People seem to be complaining about that. Let's talk about the other thing everyone's complaining about. Daemon would never choke Rhaenyra, guys. He's just such a good man. He loves her. Oh, I was dealing with these tweets 3 days ago too. There was also a funny follow-up one that was like, Book Rhaenyra would beat the shit out of Daemon if he ever put his hands on her or something. I guess. It's interesting how, this is more a Miller thing than a Minty thing, though we'll group them together, because why not? About complaining about how unlikable Rhaenyra is or whatever. And I see some people saying that, but they seem to be the max contrarian, like -5% of people. It is interesting that she's way nicer than Book Rhaenyra. But I feel like through her meanness, Book Rhaenyra is probably more likable, though I don't know if they would agree. But she is meaner, Book Rhaenyra, and she's screaming about things a lot more and going a little bit more mad. Book Rhaenyra does not consider terms. That was another cute moment. And another thing that I was spoiled to was Alicent presenting her with the picture of the book, of the Nymeria ships thingy that they were reading in the first episode. That's cute. Now, I saw a faked image of Rhaenyra and Alicent talking on Dragonstone, which led me to believe, because obviously in the preview they had the mirror shot of Otto and Daemon on the bridge like they had from episode 2. And I was like, oh my god, did fucking Alicent go with them? This is the greatest thing the show has ever pulled. Now, obviously, it was not to be. Cowards, they didn't have it. And they actually could have. They actually could have had her go along and then them have a private talk. Such a... I wish it had happened. I wish it happened. It's the most interesting relationship in the show, and they ended on good terms. And the page seems to indicate further good terms. Because Rhaenyra obviously, initially upon hearing that Aegon has been crowned, should think that Alicent betrayed her or was lying to her at the end of episode 8 or whatever. But she wasn't. She just, Viserys just wanted this, alright, Rhaenyra? So shut up and bend the knee. But Rhaenyra actually does consider it, and the prophecy, which is also show exclusive, kind of, plays into this, obviously. She's like, well, the realm has to be won when the fucking White Walkers come. Now, it is getting a little cringe every time she mentions it, and it's just like this vague darkness in the north. It's like, you really can't have them find out about the White Walkers. I guess you could, but why you could would be a spoiler. Now, the big reveal of this scene seems to be that Rhaenyra is surprised that Daemon was never told about the vision, which sort of indicates retroactively that Viserys didn't just choose Rhaenyra to be the heir on a whim, just to spite Daemon, like she had claimed, I think, in like the second or third episode. I think it is in the second episode. Because he never actually considered him heir, because he never told him about the prophecy, whereas he told Rhaenyra immediately, which meant he was going all the way with it, and probably believed it more than just, well, this is a holdover until I get remarried, or this is until Daemon apologizes or something, which is cute. I mean, making Viserys even cooler in retrospect. What a great old man that prick was. Lost my train of thought completely. What were we talking about? Oh, choking. Daemon put his hands on Rhaenyra. So there were a lot of very mad Daemon fans about this, because obviously the Daemon fans, they're fucking insane. They're just the Aaron fans come again. He's a kind of cool bad guy. So everybody cooms all over him, even though what a boring bastard he is. And him smashing his wife's head in, who we don't really care about, is fine. But because they presumably care about Rhaenyra and are very into their ship, this was a no-go for them. And also, they are starting to get the victim mentality that the Aaron fans had again already, where they're starting to think like the creators of the show are turning against them to make him unlikable, because that one of the writers, I assume everybody knows this, but after the last episode had come out and been like, I have no idea why everybody loves Daemon, he's like an awful person. And there was some uproar on Twitter about this, about how she didn't understand Daemon's character or something. And there have been, and I have seen tweets where it's like, they're trying to make us hate Daemon, they're character assassinating him, which is all the things that were said about Aaron. Remember our Attack on Titan days? That was when we peaked, especially on stream. It's interesting though how they go in different directions. Aaron's character is ruined because he gets nice in the end, and Daemon's character is supposedly being ruined because he's getting meaner, or meaner to very specific people. That is interesting. It's kind of like anime fans being extremely edgy and pathetic and liking the bad stuff, and the more normie House of the Dragon watchers not liking the bad stuff, and the opposite reasons is cute. Fan bases aren't entirely the same, but a lot of people are saying like, Rhaenyra is the love of his life, he would never do this to her, which is like, they have to be show onlys, not knowing what comes next, because it's very obvious that Daemon is not really in love with Rhaenyra, really at all. Even in the scene on the beach, like, Rhaenyra is instigating. It was kind of pathetic in retrospect. God, this gets into the bigger issue, is that older Rhaenyra is still very boring, and there's not a lot of personality there, whereas Millie Alcock had so much personality in everything, and it's the cuntiness factor, it's so good. Like, the Millie Alcock and Matt Smith chemistry is so much more than the Emma Darcy-Matt Smith chemistry, which I've never felt, not even once, that they had any chemistry at all, really. Like, the scene on the beach sucked, it was boring, completely lame. no feelings, unlike the Kristen Cole scene. But every time, like, they would interact when it was younger Rhaenyra, and she would, like, demand him, like, kidnap her and, like, call his bluff and, like, kind of humiliate him, but in the sexiest way possible. Like at the wedding, or there's another one, I guess even on the bridge in episode 2, where she's, like, calling him out on his shit, and he's not going to do anything because she kind of knows that he's partial to her. That stuff is all so great. And now it's just, like, I guess they're together and stuff. They seem to have a mutual love for their children. But outside of that, like, I don't know. And Matt Smith seems entirely uninterested in episode 7. And further since, he hasn't really. And also, I remember this is something me and Minty would laugh at a lot when people would say, like, Daemon is the best stepdad or whatever for what he does to Lucerys or whatever. For Lucerys, to Vaemond in that one episode. Whereas in this episode, he's just, like, kind of shit-talking both of them openly, which is funny. Where Jace comes down and tries to take control, but Daemon, like, tells him to get fucked and leave or whatever. Also, we still have not had one scene of Daemon talking to his kids. Well, his girls, I guess. Which is kind of hilarious. They do mention that still only one of them has a dragon. I can't remember if Moondancer is the one that is had right now. But, Baylor and Rhaena, I don't remember that fucking name. I don't think I ever will. This fucking Baylor's easy to remember, and she's the oldest one. They still have, like, very minimal characterization, though. They aren't dying too soon, so, unlike Luke, we can stall a little bit before we give them some characterization. To be fair, the scenes where he talks to the girls exist, but they got cut for some reason. Well, still, they got cut for some reason, so... And even, I don't know, we only saw the one screenshot of that. It's entirely possible that he wasn't being as nice, because I think the image we saw of those scenes is just, like, them hugging or something after Lane is dead. I bet he was a prick before that to them in that very scene. But the Daemon fans have a victim complex, and, yeah, it's going to develop problematically going into the future, I think. And also, there are some concerns with my growing theory that Game of Thrones is only widely disliked by a lot of the normies because Jon and Dany didn't end up together and that they ruined their favorite ship by the end. I was wondering out loud, I think to Minty, about this the other day, where I was like, it is possible that the casual fans could revolt entirely if Daemon and Rhaenyra continue to get volatile like this. So far, that doesn't seem to have been the case. But if, like, their favorite ship of the pretty boy and the pretty girl getting together, the main girl and the main boy getting together doesn't happen, if they could revolt on the show. Doesn't seem to be happening, though. Now, this is all sort of born out of Rhaenyra considering the peace proposal that, again, ties into her potential feelings for Alicent and the Greens and not wanting to go to war and keeping the realm together to fight the maybe kind of vague White Walkers. I was talking about that being cringe, but I don't think I explained myself. I feel like, like, just this vague badness from the North is... I don't think anybody would believe her. I guess Daemon doesn't, and that might be part of the point. But, yeah. And every time they say the Song of Ice and Fire, I do cringe a little bit too now. I was rallying against people cringing at it at the beginning, but at this point I'm kind of on board too. It was cool when Viserys said it the one time, but then we should have just called it Aegon's Dream or something from then forward. But nonetheless, Daemon chokes Rhaenyra when he gets mad. It's disgusting. We hate the show now. They're ruining Daemon's character. That's the conclusion. My next note here says, Hot D says childbirth is bad. This has been a continual thing throughout the first season. We got the Amaranth stuff. We got the Lena stuff. We got the first Rhaenyra birth scene. And obviously this one, which was a little traumatizing, with her birthing a stillborn. Premature stillborn, just like plopping on the floor. Yeah, House of the Dragon continues to de-romanticize, as I say in that the one scripted video that I actually did finish. De-romanticize the birthing process. It's not a beautiful, wonderful thing. It's yucky. Now, actually, the interesting thing here is that, like, the two times that older Rhaenyra has really been interesting or stood out to me have both been birthing times. Like, when she's swearing at the maester in this one is cute. And I don't know, there's obvious ability in Emma Darcy to act, especially in those scenes where it's like, I don't know, the viscerality, whatever the Sopranos have, the visceralness of that line and stuff is like so good. It's like, oh, if she wasn't given such boring fucking lines, I'm pretty sure she would be killing this shit right now. I think we just need her to get angry more. So maybe she does need to be more like Book Rhaenyra. But I think the madness is starting. Because more people are going to die that she likes. We've got Grilled Duck, who I think is a first-time chatter, saying Jaehaerys is so handsome. True! Exclamation point. Sometimes I think his weird pouting face is weird, but other times I am like, I guess it looks good. But Jaehaerys, he's surviving. The actor will be a year older, though the actor's probably already grown up, right? He's probably like 23 or something. His haircut is goofy, though. Yeah, but that's supposed to be like, oh, he's a little goofy boy. Rhaenyra's dumb, dorky sons. Whereas Aegon has a cool haircut, and Aemond especially is looking cool. We're supposed to like the dorky ones. It's supposed to be endearing, I think. It's interesting also because we do get some shots of Joffrey standing around in this episode. Because there are no more time skips, I guess that's how old Joffrey is going to be throughout the whole thing, which is interesting. Lamau. Is it weird that I kind of also like Varys, as in he's a handsome man? I do think that sometimes too. But then he does something creepy and it kind of throws you off. But unless you're talking about liking Larys just as a character, in that case, I mean, you do you, boo. Where was that up to? Oh, fucking talking about childbirth. Oh, and obviously the opening scene of episode 6 also made Rhaenyra very likable when she's walking with Laenor and stuff. I guess maybe the reason why older Rhaenyra hasn't been as cool is just that she's never in too, like, big of situations. Like, where she's heightened emotions. So she doesn't get these cool, exciting yelling things to do or something, like younger Rhaenyra did. But even Millie Alcock, I feel like, had more personality in those quieter scenes too. I don't know. I guess we'll finish the Rhaenyra stuff. Hold on, I did have a note here. Older Rhaenyra still being a little boring. She's getting mad at the maester and swearing. Apparently she's only cool when she's giving birth. Well, look at that. I did all that without looking at my note. Now, the last scene is like Rhaenyra hulking up, and I did think it was a little goofy. Kind of reflective of how... Oh, this is an interesting point, because obviously all of the scripts would have been done long before fucking... Obviously, and all the filming and everything was long done before the episode came out. And I think the showrunners must have been especially surprised. I think they thought that season 1 was, like, a lot of people were going to think it was boring until the very end when shit started to happen. But everybody really bought into the show from the very beginning. And thought it was really good and was in love with the show. After like 2, even the first episode, I was. And I think this is unexpected to them, because obviously you have to do a bunch of pre-dance stuff to establish things, because you need to, you could have cut Laenor and Laenor entirely, but Daemon and Rhaenyra have kids by these people, so they have to be somewhat of characters. Probably in a perfect world for them, they would have started with Viserys' death or something. But then it's so hard to do character introductions while you're doing everything that happens in, like, the last 2 episodes. So they sort of came to this compromise that we'll speed through the timeline and do it as they have done it, which I think was like perfect for the first 5 episodes. And I don't think the time skip stuff has ever bothered me as much as some of the other stuff. But yeah. And I think this is supposed to be the moment where we're supposed to go like, yeah, now the real show is beginning. All the boring shit is over with as Rhaenyra hulks up at the end. Maybe this is just the position to get all the characters into position by the end of the season, because they have done some different things so far. So maybe this is to get Rhaenyra to the point where she is going to be mad Rhaenyra from the books. Mad, angry Rhaenyra from the books. But even then, Alicent is in like kind of a different position still, and Aemond especially is. So I don't know. I feel like they are just making the characters generally more grey and interesting. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But I think this is supposed to hit in this moment like, oh, the real show is about to start or some shit. Whereas I fear the real show ended in episode 6. Because now we're going to be distracted with a bunch of war shit. Though I'm sure they can still focus on the characters quite a bit. Nonetheless, the hulking up was a little weird. It is supposed to be a shit's about to get real moment. Also, they did the thing where they didn't show the reaction. I'd praised the show previously for not doing the DBZ thing where you don't show the reaction, you just cut away. And original Game of Thrones got criticized for this a lot, where we cut away when Sansa and Arya learn about Jon's parentage and things like that. And no, we want to see it, goddammit. And we didn't. I guess we see Rhaenyra's reaction here, but we don't hear it. And I guess I would have preferred to have heard it. Now, obviously, the dramatic slow walking and the music was cute at the end too. So yeah, you can only do one of those things. I don't know, I felt like it would have been cool if the first 2 scenes of next season was the first one of Alicent freaking the fuck out and screaming at people because of what Aemond did, and then Rhaenyra freaking the fuck out and screaming at people for Luke being dead or something. That could have been cool. But Grill Duck is saying some things in chat that I should catch up on too. I think it's a really good season, the whole season, but it costs a long time wait for season 2. None of this has been confirmed yet. People on Twitter are complaining that we're not going to get anything next year until the year after and stuff like that, but we'll see. They'll make announcements. Elizabeth Olsen and Henry Cavill being in season 2 makes me so excited. Henry Cavill will be Aegon lol. Now, I've seen people talking about this. Now, neither of these are confirmed either. I have no idea who Henry Cavill would play. I guess he could play Cregan Stark, but even then, with how young he's supposed to be, Henry Cavill looks a little old. I hate Henry Cavill as Aegon, because I hate Aegon as like this alpha male dude, whereas I'm pretty sure what you're supposed to get out of Fire and Blood is that Visenya is running shit, and Aegon is just sort of, he's a good king, I guess, but I don't know. I don't think Aegon is this literal Henry Cavill Superman alpha male bloke. So I don't know if I like that casting too much. Elizabeth Olsen could be, again, she has to be a kind of older character because she's like 30, right? I guess there are a bunch of lords' wives that she could be, but I assume they would bring her in for an important role. I can't think of anybody right now. But maybe Aegon would be in a flashback. I don't know. The Henry Cavill Aegon stuff I'm not too big of a fan for, but you can search online. I don't think there is any news that Henry Cavill has been cast. I think it's been people have speculated on that. I don't think anything's been confirmed though. The article said she will be a witch, like Scarlet Witch. I don't know about that. I guess she could be a Red Priest, literally. Oh, I saw people saying she could be younger Melisandre, but I don't know. I feel like Melisandre is supposed to be like 80 years old, not like 180 years old. But anyway, related to dragons, maybe. We'll have to see. Where were we up to? What dot point? Daemon and Vermithor, he's singing to the dragons, it calms them down or something. Heath is linking one. Henry Cavill is to join the cast of season 2. Two of the biggest characters reportedly. I highly doubt either of these castings will happen. Heath is a doubting ass doubter out here. It would seem pretty expensive to bring in both. Did Game of Thrones bring in, like, Pedro Pascal wasn't really that big of an actor then, was he, right? When they brought him in to be Oberyn? I'm trying to think of who they brought in later seasons that was, like, a big actor. I don't think Natalie Dormer was that big until after she played Marjorie, right? She's in Hunger Games or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that's after she started in Game of Thrones too. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll see. Especially in Aegon the Conqueror flashback when there's basically no flashbacks in Game of Thrones. Yeah. Again, we could do some Bran shit. Bran was not in the first season. My idea of him, like, haunting Viserys as he dies didn't happen. HBO are cowards. Bran better be in the next season. What else do I have written down here? War Meeting was cool. Lord Grover was mentioned again. Still no Elmore Tully. The Starks never break oaths. Fucking propaganda. I talked about all of that. Chad, am I missing anything to talk about? Because those are all my fucking notes. Man, I wish Ari was here. We could do predictions about next season, who's going to win and everything. But, we can't. He's not here. Okay, but I wish he will. Maybe. Oh! Let me stretch. Let me think. There's a Rhaenys and Corlys scene. They reunite. They have a little "you abandoned me, no, you abandoned me" makeup session. That was cute. Corlys walking in and all the lords being confident because he walks in. Obviously, he's a very big player, biggest fucking fleet in the fucking realm or whatever. The other side, they talk about the other side having the Lannister fleet. No mention of the Greyjoys at all, which is interesting. They are part of the realm at this point. They do have a hell of a lot of ships, obviously. Also, the Arbor, the Redwynes have a bunch of ships, though they weren't mentioned. Now, we met Lady Redwyne. She was the old lady with a pug. She's probably dead at this point, huh? That was a bunch of years ago. But anyway, Redwyne's having mentioned in the show, so we'll see if they come back. Which actor will be good at acting Aegon, you think? I don't know anything about actors. I can't fantasy cast things. I just don't know enough. What do you think about it in general? From what I heard Preston stream, I tend to agree with his criticisms. About the show or about the episode? Because I think if we do, let's do the episode ranking. We've got 4 is obviously the best. Then 2, then 5, then 1, then 3. 3 is let down by having boring action at the end. Then 8, then 9, then 10, then 6, then 7. Because 6 and 7 flounder for Alicent just being so evil in them and unlikable. So that's how the ranking goes. The show, it was the greatest show of all time for the first 5 episodes. Then the rest happened. And now it's like, I don't know, it's pretty good. I don't know how to rank it right now. It was legit. I was having the time of my life the first 5 episodes. Like, I could not hear criticism about it. It would just make me angry. But I feel like now I could go back and watch those Preston streams and be like, yeah, whatever. Show was bad in parts. This is the first show I've ever seen. I know The Crown or whatever does it, where they skip forward and make new actors. I don't know how I feel about it as a general concept. Like, I really like Olivia Cook as Alicent, but, like, Emily Carey was also very good at Alicent. Like, I don't know. Like, none of the logic bro shit bothers me at all. I guess the rainy stuff bothered me last episode. But, we'll have to see where we go in the future. We've settled in now with the new actors and actresses. Season 2 has a lot of potential. I feel like I can map out the whole season in my mind. I can't say anything, obviously. I'll talk about this with Minty when we do our video. But I feel like I know what the episode 9 is. I know sort of the big hit parts that are going to happen in the first few episodes, then the middle episodes, and the end. I'm pretty sure I know what the last scene of next season will be. But anyway, spoiler All right, spoiler. Apparently, Heather's going to spoil things, so hopefully you didn't read this if you're watching right now, and mute because I'm going to read it anyway for a little while. This problem's mainly where the show really wasn't coherent and that characters would change from episode to episode. Oh, well, that's not a spoiler for the show. It's just a spoiler for press and criticisms. I don't think that's true at all. I guess Alicent being so evil for those 2 episodes, or I guess just so unlikable. Now, I did mention, and I have mentioned throughout, that I have been rewatching season 2. Cersei in these 3 episodes of season 2 is exactly how Alicent was in the 2 episodes I didn't like. And it is, like, just kind of boring. Cersei is just, like, a generic bad guy. Not generic, but she's just such a bad guy where it's like and Alicent's better than Cersei, right? So we got to keep this up. Though Cersei does... it's interesting because she's not... Lena Headey isn't even talking like Cersei into season 2. And that obviously doesn't come till later. But that's just an observation I had. But I don't know. I feel like I vaguely heard secondhand what his changing motivation thing is for, but I don't think that happened. I can't think of a single character where I think that happened with. I don't know. Maybe Heath can tell me which ones particularly. Like him freaking about the Joffrey stuff, which is the most easily explainable thing in the world. Whatever. Other than that, where do we sit? Best characters in the show, young Rhaenyra is number 1, older Alicent is number 2, I guess Viserys is number 3, and then who knows how the rest goes. I feel like Rhaenys was the closest to how good she was in episode 2 in this episode, where she was just smirking and not bending the knee and everything. I thought that was cool. But every other scene she's been in has left me wanting a little bit. I think I want her to be more like the Queen of Thorns, and she's not all the time. She's a little bit more emotional, outwardly. The Queen of Thorns really never had a vulnerable moment, huh? She was just a bad bitch till the end. Even when she was dying, she was like, fuck you and I killed your son, bitch. Tell Cersei. What a queen. I guess that's part of the problem with that show too, huh? They wouldn't even give Tywin the vulnerable moments towards the end, even though that's supposed to be the whole point. Shake my head. Terrible show. One note. We will see. I honestly couldn't rate it. Where does season 1 of House of the Dragon rate? Next to like Boardwalk and Sopranos and stuff like that? I have no idea. I wonder if I'll rewatch it properly. I don't know, because obviously I have 2 videos coming out, the episode 4 one and the general one about dialogue, which is why I have to rewatch season 2 at least of Game of Thrones. But yeah, we'll see. Am I missing any scenes? I got the binge thing up here. We'll scroll through because we're only an hour in and I've run out of things to say. We get the Rhaenyra coronation scene, which is whatever, the Eric or Irek or whatever the fuck his name is, one of the twins shows up. They do have a standoff on the bridge too. Obviously, more to come there. She's got the 2 Kingsguard dudes, plus the 3rd one now. Her arriving on Syrax... Oh, I did like the cutting to Syrax as she was in pain in the birthing... well, not even the birthing bed, but as she was having labor pains. I thought that was sick. Again, I feel like I'm largely positive on this episode, but everything to talk about is sort of a slightly negative thing. Where were we up to? What was I talking about before the Syrax thing? Fuck, I completely forgotten. I'm scrolling through the timeline to hopefully try and remember, but it isn't happening. The bridge stuff, maybe? Oh, her landing on Syrax and then, like, walking past him just to walk back over was a little weird. I was like, this is a little awkward. She probably should have landed behind. I guess they wanted to have the parallel of the bridge scene entirely. Her ripping Otto's hand of the king thing off. It was kind of a little pathetic, but it was kind of interesting in that way, where it was like, Rhaenyra is being a bit bratty right now. But again, it was another one of those sort of visceral moments where she seemed a little bit more interesting than she usually does for a little bit. Now, in the book, I'm pretty sure it's just Orwyle that goes to treat with the blacks. I don't think Otto goes with him, because obviously there's no reason Otto wouldn't just be killed, but obviously they have the Rhaenyra is being trepidatious in the show. But in this version, it makes no sense that Aemon wouldn't be there with Vhagar. But then I guess you would have to explain why he kept his cool here, and not later. But yeah. The best scene in the episode, I think, is the painted table stuff. It was pretty cool. Talking about the war logistics and stuff. Pretty sick. We got choking. We got Corlys and Rhaenys. They both initially are like, let's just retire with our grandchildren to Driftmark and not choose a side. But then they sort of get to... Rhaenys talks Corlys out of doing that. It's funny because that was usually Rhaenys' position, but she had flipped to be sort of the one to go after the war. Corlys is very cute in the scene where he's walking in with his little cane, and he's like, and everybody's clearly, you can feel the tension in the room dissipate as he shows up, because he's a very powerful ally to have. Also, he mentions that they actually beat up the Triarchy this time and have set up stuff, so they have the shipping lanes and everything, and they can set them up so that green stuff is not allowed in and out and all that stuff. Jason Luke swearing on the fucking Bible and shit was okay. That was pretty cool. That's why Luke seemed to not want to fight initially. Though obviously, Aemon would have beat the fuck out of him probably. Unless this is a Blackwood Bracken situation. And the little fella beat him up, but I don't think so. We got singing and we got all the Storm's End stuff. I think we talked about everything, chat. Everything at the beginning. I didn't talk about the baby stuff that much. Her wrapping up the baby, obviously the parallel to episode 1 with the dead baby in episode 1. Her going through the motions there and the sadness was cool. I liked all that stuff. I like the funeral parlor. I like how the funeral parlor ends up becoming the sort of like the official coronation. Viserys' crown does kind of look dorky on her head, but we'll deal with it. A little detail that I liked is Rhaenys going to get Jason Luke and being like, your mother wants you or whatever. That felt like a very family thing, which is cute. Yeah, I guess the baby stuff, I didn't really talk about it, but I liked all that stuff too. Another little detail that was interesting is how Daemon is immediately wants to figure out how to defend Dragonstone, and sort of their army is limited to defending Dragonstone initially. I think he even says something like, in terms of a conqueror's army, it's wanting or something, he says. And that was cute. But nonetheless, I think that's everything. We've got more House of the Dragon content coming up on this channel and the main channel, hopefully. So stick around for that. In terms of other second channel content, obviously we have movie night happening every week. I still got to record Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I'll have to do that tomorrow because it's supposed to come out the day after. So stick around for that. We've already done Blonde and Casablanca. So if watch the movies along. In every episode we announce what the next one is going to be. So I'll have to decide what the next one is going to be after Roger Rabbit officially. Soon, so I can say it in tomorrow's recording. So you get the warning, so you have a week to watch the movie, and then we can talk about it. It'll be fun. Movie night is great. I'm loving it. But in terms of consistent second channel content, now that House of the Dragon is done, that'll be it. I don't think I'm going to do the Chainsaw Man or the Berserk chapter reviews anymore. It's kind of boring, and I don't really want to. Whenever Vinland Saga starts coming out, I'm sure me and Bacon will do episode by episode reviews. Ari will probably be healthy by then. So that'll probably happen, and I think that's 24 weeks, so that'll be content. I'm not watching Chainsaw Man's anime, so That's not going to be happening. But movie night, and then Attack on Titan will also be back around the same time as Vinland Saga. So second channel content will be coming back. I just answered the Health Goddess question in too late. I had already answered it. But no, I have not seen any of the Chainsaw Man anime yet. I'm not really in a rush to either, so maybe if I watch it at some point, I'll do one big video on all of it or something. I don't know. I wonder if Ari's watching it. He said he was going to. I'm sure Ari is listening to this in the future. Invest in Attack on Titan, but not Goatsaw Man. I already read this fucking Chainsaw Man shit. Do I have to watch this dumb motion cartoon? But I have to watch the Attack on Titan one. I'm like 100 episodes into this fucking thing. Plus, everybody will talk. If somebody talks to me about Chainsaw Man, I guess I might do it. Like if Ari is watching it and wants to do it. But even then, we could just do it in big chunks, because aren't there already 2 episodes out? Third one coming soon. But nonetheless, more content coming soon to the second channel. We'll be back in a year and a half, 2 years, whenever it is, with House of the Dragon Season 2 too, hopefully. A lot can change in that time. Maybe we'll be deleted off the internet, or I don't know what. Bleach better anyway. I've also not seen any of Bleach. My apologies. I'm not watching any anime in this big season that everybody's excited about. But yes, House of the Dragon Season 2, when it comes out, we'll probably be here to talk about it. With that being said, we're done here. Kind of a short one, but whatever. Fuck you. Support links in the description below. Thanks.